So there's a ton of information going around about the whole Xbox Activision Blizzard King situation that's happening here with the acquisition deal and all that. You probably heard about it. It's been reported on news, TV news, whatever, legacy news, whatever you want to call it. It's been reported all over Twitter. There's a bunch of hot takes around this stuff. There is a bunch of like insiders and leak sources and this, that, and the other thing. So um, I have slightly talked about this stuff on stream and in video formats, a couple times over again, but this newest stuff just makes me go, what? So first up, I guess we'll just jump right into this stuff. The first up, Bobby Kotick, which is the very troubled CEO. There's lots of lawsuits around this guy and everything. He's not the greatest dude ever. That's just to say the least about it. So he has been the CEO of Activision Blizzard for a number of years now. And, they've been trying to, the industry has been trying to get rid of him, basically, because he is just not that great. I'm trying to be kind of nice with this. So, Microsoft buying out Activision Blizzard, it would be maybe possibly a good thing, because we might just see him ride off into the sunset. He's going to be walking away with a lot of money, but that's just the way the business works. But hopefully they could end up, getting him to ride off into the sunset. But the problem is Microsoft's deal, the way they're trying to do this deal, is ridiculous. So first up, there is this letter that was sent out by Bobby Kotick. It's kind of a long one. I don't think I'm going to read through the whole thing because there's a lot of stuff to get into in this. Today is an incredibly exciting day as we continue our journey to connect and engage the world through epic entertainment. We will eventually do so as part of Microsoft. I am certain that our incredible team and extraordinary games combined with our shared commitment to the very best workplace will enable us to grow an increasingly more competitive race for leadership as gaming through the metaverse evolves. Jeez, so much. Yeah. How we got here. So when you reflect on what we've built together, we have so much to be proud of. For the last 31 years, we've continuously shaped gaming through our commitment to deliver joy, fun, and thrill of accomplishment. That's right. I remember the first games that they put out. Wow. We've transformed games into social experiences. Yeah, it's like Call of Duty lobbies where everybody's yelling at each other. Enabled players to find purpose and meaning through most engaging form of entertainment. Our games, by doing so, we've created and entertained communities of hundreds of millions of players. Connecting these communities together is the next step. Facebook, Google, Tencent, NetEase, Amazon, Apple, Sony, Disney, and many more have ambitions for their own gaming and metaverse initiatives. Established and emerging competitors see opportunity for virtual worlds filled with professionally produced content, user-generated content, and rich social connections. Okay. I mean, this is basically this is how far of a reach, Activision Blizzard and King, they all have out there. It's like on every single one of the platforms. They have a product on every single one of the platforms. And this is what Microsoft is trying to buy up. Our team and our games are important components of the construction of a rich metaverse. That word metaverse is just it's a marketing term. This is, if they're using the word metaverse in this, to me, it's just showing that he wrote this because he knew that it was going to pick up news and he knew that everybody was going to be reading it. That is public. This is not really, it's worded as this is something for, the developers and the marketing people and all that stuff. It's not. It's made for you and me, the consumers, the ones that are buying the product. That's what this is made for. So it makes you feel like you're, getting an insider look on stuff. That's all this is. A partnership to define the future, AI, machine learning, data, capability, Microsoft will also will support our journey to further strengthen our culture. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, has been passionate advocate for caring as currency of leadership. Inspiring people through empathy is a powerful motivator, one we embrace as we renew our resolve and in the work we are doing so. to set a new standard for a welcoming and inclusive workplace culture. Oh Jesus, this whole thing is just give me a break, Bobby. That's just the track record on both of Satya Nadella, Microsoft, and Activision's track record of workplace hospitality as I mean, if you're an Xbox fanboy, you're gonna hate me for saying it, but Satya Nadella doesn't care about Xbox. He cares about Game Pass subscription stuff because that's where they make their money off from. Every single time they make a console, they take a hit on it. That's every company that happens with. I've said this over and over and over again because it's true. We've heard this from developers and publishers alike and all that stuff. And it's just, it's just cold hard fact that there's lawsuits and, workplace, stuff that goes down where, not every office at Activision Blizzard is a bad place, but to bring that up in this whole letter of like, oh, we're trying to bring the world together and unite everybody or needs gaming. No. No. you ain't gonna buy us off by blowing smoke up our ass, basically. That's the way I'm looking at it. Okay, importantly, Microsoft wants your talent, your creativity, and your dedication. This almost feels like it's, like, come work for us. Hey guys, yeah, come work for us, do some stuff. Which that's one of the things, Microsoft laying off a bunch of people, and now they're going to Nintendo, or they're going to PlayStation Studios, or they're going to indie teams and all that stuff to work on different projects that way instead of working on like Halo, for instance. There's so many developers that got laid off with the downsizing that Microsoft just did on their gaming division. But Microsoft is the greatest place to work. Yeah, because Satya Nadella wants gaming. Oh, God. Let's see here. So, again, there's a lot of legal stuff that they get into down there. So there is a few posts. The reason why I wanted to make a Let's Talk on this was because there's a few posts that people have been, doing on social media that is, it makes some damn good points. And, again, I won't, like Tom Warren comes out with some pretty good knowledge about the industry. I won't say that everything that these guys or any one of these accounts are saying is like 100% factual truth. They're, I doubt like hell they are inside the meeting rooms when all these, meetings are going down and everything. They kind of get leak information in a sense. Like Tom Warren himself is, I forget, what is your job? You're senior editor at The Verge. Okay. So, he knows people in the industry in spots to be talking. So this is actually like some good details here though. So Microsoft wants a lot of documents from Sony for the FTC case, and Sony isn't happy with the 55-page set of demands. Microsoft's demands for performance reviews for Sony Interactive Entertainment's leadership is obvious harassment. So check this out. This is huge on the screen, I know. So Microsoft's subpoena to Sony Interactive Entertainment is truly massive. Since receiving it, SIE has engaged in 5 meet and confers, so it's basically sit-down meetings with Microsoft, served a 55-page set of detailed written responses and objections at Microsoft's demand, and had extensive correspondence with Microsoft. On the evening of February 1st, 2023, SIE and Microsoft generally agreed that SIE would produce files from 7 identified custodians, but numerous additional scope issues remain. SIE requested an extension of time to resolve these, but Microsoft refused unless SIE agreed to file a partial motion to quash on the issue of Microsoft's choice 2 days later. This gamesmanship by Microsoft is inefficient and inappropriate. Let's see here. Microsoft's demand for performance reviews from Sony Interactive Entertainment's leadership is obvious harassment. Even in employment cases, courts require a specific showing of relevance before requiring personal files. Yeah, and then they give examples. They give an example here. So, yeah, it's kind of like ridiculous that Microsoft is asking of anything when it comes down to like, we already know that Microsoft, if they want to, they can just now. It's less about the leaks. It's more about giving stuff away with Wario. And that's why I say kind of stay away from Wario 64's, thing. Anyways, CMA, UK regulator, provisionally concludes on Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal could harm gamers, resulting in higher prices, fewer choices, or less innovation, says remedies including it says remedies include selling Call of Duty, the Activision segment, or both. Yeah, so this is the funny one. Again, this is from The Verge once again. So at this stage, the CMA has identified the following possible structure remedies. This is hilarious right here. Requiring a partial divestiture of Activision Blizzard. So basically, what this is saying is, UK is basically saying to Microsoft, you can't have both. So if Microsoft wants the deal to go through and make it so that they can still basically sell in the UK, it's either you get rid of Call of Duty because it's too damn big of a franchise, or divestiture of Activision segment of Activision Blizzard, or get rid of the Blizzard sector. So either get rid of Call of Duty, so basically like cut it down to threes, because like Activision Blizzard, Call of Duty is your main one. Either get rid of the main one, which that's the whole reason why Microsoft wants this deal, so they can take Call of Duty and make a buck off from it. It's not to innovate Call of Duty. It's not to push it into the future. It's to make a buck off from it with Game Pass. We know this. We know that's how Microsoft works. We've seen this time and time again over the years. Or cut off Blizzard, sell Blizzard off, or cut off Activision, sell Activision off. If you sell off Activision, you might as well give up Call of Duty, because that's like if Microsoft just wants to buy the license rights for Call of Duty and put another team on it, that could be a possibility, but that'd be stupid. And if you get rid of Activision, then you're giving up Crash and Spyro and this one and that one. Now, if they wanted to split Activision Blizzard up, and maybe Sony wanted to keep Call of Duty, get rid of Activision, it would still be stupid on the Call of Duty part. Like, they could take all the old titles of Call of Duty. So like reading all this right here, it's just like here's like the stupidest case scenario that they could do with this right here. So they take Call of Duty, they take all the old Call of Duties, put on Game Pass. Okay, sure, you sell Game Pass, you make some money there, but then you don't have any new innovation on Call of Duty for the future. So the next Call of Duty, whatever it is, if it's a Treyarch Call of Duty or whatever, they're just kind of stuck doing the same old stuff, which a lot of people would argue that's what they're already doing. But at least they're trying to, they add rollback netcode in the last couple of games. They've done the whole thing where it's like you can switch between Warzone to MW1 to MW2 to and you have all that launcher like that. And then maybe sell off Activision's licenses, which would be Crash and Spyro, and like CTR would be in there. Crash, the new wannabe Crash Bash game. That's basically, I mean that game just looks like it's being made for a Game Pass. Also, it's not Crash Bandicoot. It's just like a party game of Crash. Basically, it's just Mario Party. Crash Bandicoot's version of Mario Party. Which again, that is made for Game Pass. In my eyes, that's what you make that for. Okay, if you want to play this party game with your friends or whatever, everybody picks up Game Pass. That's multiple copies of Game Pass being sold right there, and everybody can jump in on this Crash Bash kind of Mario Party-esque type of game. That fits what Microsoft is up to right now perfectly to a T. It's Game Pass sales. Who would pay full price for that? You play it a couple times with your friends and whatnot. Now, so here's another one. Now, I don't know if this was so. There is one of these numbers rings true, but I don't know about the Sony side of things, because I've never actually heard like a diehard detailed number of like what Sony's market cap actually is. Of course, this over here says 115 billion. So. Let's see here. $90 US, right? Sony Group Corp. Again, it's kind of hard when it comes to these numbers, but between their indie purchases, Bethesda, Activision Blizzard, Microsoft will have spent more than Sony's entire market cap on buying up developers, publishers, and IP. Let that fact sink in. People on this thread can play the poor little Microsoft. And so the thread that they're talking about is Reset Era, which again, this is just kind of like a grain of sand, but something to think about. Because this is one of these things of like, don't take any of these numbers for absolute, serious certain, but it's just something to keep in the back of your brain when you're hearing about all this Microsoft, Activision, Sony business. poor little Microsoft, which a lot of the Xbox fans, they or Game Pass fans really now, they end up doing that. People, I don't think people really care about Xbox as much as they do Game Pass. They just want more bang for their buck with their subscription, which I can see. I can see that. I have Game Pass running also right now, and some of those. I mean, hell, I even got EA Play Pro going just so I can check out Dead Space remake without having to spend full money on it. Because in all honesty, I'd much rather I just want to see it once. I'd much rather just pay for that lower cost of entry into the game than doing the full price. But if I was really like, oh my god, Dead Space remake is the greatest thing ever, then yes, I would try and purchase a full copy of it, because I know that helps developers. So World's Tiniest Violin. Yeah. People on the thread want to play poor little Microsoft World's Tiniest Violin all they want, but that isn't competition. That's a multi-billion-dollar corp succeeding by default because they can massively outspend the competition. Exactly. They're buying their success. I've been saying this for a while now. The reason why I keep saying Microsoft wants to try and just buy their success instead of making their success, just look at what they're doing. They're buying all these license rights for Game Pass, and then they put all the old titles on Game Pass, and people want to keep complaining about like, well, all these remasters and nostalgia and everything. Well, you're funding Microsoft to do this, and then you want something brand new for Microsoft. Why would they make something new when you're funding, nostalgia? That's what they're making their market off from. To the order of dropping Sony's entire market cap without breaking a sweat, there is nothing fair about one player in an industry being so vastly wealthy that they can spend the entire market cap of their main competitor to compete fairly. Now, I do agree with this, and a lot of people would probably be like, well, Sony keeps buying license rights for exclusivity. Exclusivity over one game for a year period is a lot different than buying not exclusivity, but buying just trying to buy success onto your subscription service. Spending that much money to just buy up a studio. So then in the future, that's basically they're just gonna be making games for your console. What Sony has been mostly doing now, they have bought in a few studios as support studios to help out with their AAA titles, absolutely. But for the most majority part, they're actually just helping out third-party development studios like Kojima Productions with Death Stranding. Death Stranding is not a PlayStation Studios title, but it was helped out and funded by Sony to have exclusivity rights, and it's even on Game Pass now. What is it, a year or two later? But if you look at the credits on that, it's all PlayStation Studios coming together to help Kojima make his first big project. That's because Sony is actually working with everyone, where everybody else is like, oh no, Sony's just trying to take over the market. No, they have been working with third-party developers like Capcom, for instance. They've been working with Capcom to try and make sure, like Street Fighter V, before Death Stranding was even thought of, Street Fighter V came out years ago, and it wouldn't have come out, it wouldn't have happened without Sony helping fund the development of Street Fighter V. Capcom was in a bad spot. They helped Capcom get back on their feet and do the whole thing. So to continue with this, in fact, if they have to do that to compete, all that shows is that they failed to compete in any way. So Microsoft, he's talking about, on anything even remotely resembling a level playing field. They're talking about, I don't know if it's a guy or girl or whatever. Microsoft have had every opportunity in the world to compete. This is very true. They've been in the console market for over 20 years, only something like 5 years less than Sony actually. I mean, because the first Xbox was what, 2001? So yeah, the 5 year mark. That's actually, yes, that is correct. They had developers and were making games on PC before Sony even entered the gaming markets. I mean, so here's the thing though. It wasn't that Xbox had developers. They bought developers. They bought the Halo team. And then they went and bought the license rights for Gears of War. The first Gears of War was actually being made for PC. If you go back and check your history, you'll see this. Actually, it's in the documentary that they officially put out on the Microsoft channel. I didn't even know about the Halo thing until I just seen that recently when the developers themselves were talking about it. I'm like, really? Halo was already in the works, and Microsoft came and bought out the whole thing, the whole development studio, the license and everything, to help make, because basically Bill Gates wanted competition. He wanted to make something that's, because Sony was starting to take over the living room. So Microsoft and Bill Gates were like, well, Bill Gates and Microsoft. Bill Gates was pushing Microsoft to try and win against Sony, pretty much. This is after Sony just beat Nintendo too. Like what, 5 years? 5 years after Nintendo just beat, or well, no, it was 5 years, because PS1 was 5 years prior to the PS2. And that's what the Xbox was coming in. Everybody's always trying to compete against Sony, and the thing is Sony is over here just making brand new experiences, AAA titles of each of these eras, and that's why everybody's competing with Sony. I mean, history just repeats itself over and over and over again. Before Sony ever entered the gaming market, they had hugely successful 360 to capitalize off them. They had Lionhead, Rare, and Bungie. They pioneered console online gaming and subscription gaming service. All true. But they let go of certain, like they shut down Lionhead. They haven't done shit with Rare, and Bungie, they let them go. So now Sony owns it. So Sony owns Bungie, makers of Halo, but Microsoft very well could own Crash Bandicoot, Sony's original mascot. It's kind of a weird situation that we're in. They pioneered console online gaming and subscription game services. Now, what a lot of people don't remember is like, okay, so yes, Xbox had Xbox Live before PSN was a thing, but PlayStation Now was a thing before Game Pass. So they've been trading off like, oh, you did this, well, we did this. You did this, we did this. Again, it's competition. It's good going back and forth, but it's just like, don't cry about there being nothing new in your system if you're on the system that doesn't make new stuff. Like that's not their MO, is to make new stuff. First console maker to embrace DLC microtransactions. True. Like the Xbox had a bunch of microtransactions on it, and then the PS3 came out with it. Microsoft hasn't failed to beat Sony because of Sony's unfair advantage. They failed to beat them because of their mismanagement of their studios and first-party portfolio, their choice to focus on and invest in Kinect, and the damage they did with their own brand with the One. So here's another, that's another big talking point that is very true. The Kinect was basically, it was fun. I had a Kinect, I had a good time with it, but it was a failure. The PSVR was profitable because they took AAA games that were already there and they threw it in, they threw VR into the mix. So it's just like, oh man, I really want to play this, one of my favorite games in VR. Boom, you could do that with the PlayStation console. Just one last one. Those are the main factors that have contributed to Microsoft's relative failure compared to Nintendo and Sony. And they're all Microsoft's own doing, nothing to do with big mean Nintendo and Sony, which is very true because Nintendo, they're like, well, we can't compete against these guys with consoles, so we're just going to go handheld route. Okay, they beat up the Vita. Now Steam Deck's starting to beat the Switch because Nintendo doesn't want to invest in new hardware. Again, though, that it's different markets. Microsoft and Sony don't want to put out a handheld. That's Nintendo's market now. But really, it's not even. It's Valve's market almost with the Steam Deck, because Steam Deck is so much more powerful than the Switch. I mean, you can run Switch games on a Steam Deck. So when it comes to Microsoft, it's like, okay, what are they going to do? Subscription service. Sony's not doubling down on that. Sony's doubling down on making brand new games. That's the reason why, like MLB The Show, Death Stranding, these games are coming from the PlayStation portfolio, and they're now on Game Pass with the Xbox. Xbox doesn't need to. Microsoft doesn't need to build a brand new game. You know why? Because all they got to do is buy the license rights, and they already have the game right there. So that's where Microsoft's head's at. Again, Nintendo is doing this thing over here. Microsoft is doing this thing. Sony is doing this thing. They're all doing three different things. And people are still trying to do this fanboy, console war thing. The industry is perfectly healthy and fair, competitive. Nintendo, Sony, Steam, PC, and mobile are all doing better than they ever have. That's very true. Xbox is profitable. Not really. This is where I'm like, Xbox is growing. No. So I guess if you look at it from the Xbox brand, sure. But the Xbox system itself, no, they're taking like a 20% loss. I've seen that number pop up. Xbox brand itself is growing. it's like yes and no. The Xbox brand is sort of growing, but it's more or less Game Pass is growing. Um, Xbox already has more developers and IP than Sony without Activision Blizzard. I guess that's probably true if you list out every single one. I've never actually done the count of numbers, wise of like, okay, so, all the Bethesda studios, all the, PlayStation studios and whatnot. I've never actually done the count on that. That might be true, but the problem is for Microsoft is that Sony is putting money into their development teams so they can actually make these really cool experiences like a God of War Ragnarok, Days Gone, the Uncharted's, the list goes on and on and on of those. So any argument that they need a $70 billion purchase of Activision Blizzard to fairly compete with Sony is obviously nonsense. If Microsoft just invested, that's their time and their effort into their actual studios that they already own. Apparently, the only way the world is fair is if Microsoft are equaling or beating Sony. Anything else, yeah. And I think that's just like where this deal kind of sits is like, I think it's a big one. If you are a fan of Call of Duty, I would say be very careful of rooting for Microsoft to make this deal go through, because we very well could see Call of Duty just become another Guitar Hero. We never thought Guitar Hero was going to go away. It did. We never thought Tony Hawk was going to go away. It did. It's just the cold hard fact of it. That's the gaming industry. Just because something is like dominant, makes a ton of money and everything, if the CEOs and the all the people that's higher up, like the developers want to make these games, they have a great time. That's their dream, is to make games. It's the higher ups that run all the money. If they are like, well, let's try something new, Call of Duty's gone. Diablo's gone. Overwatch could get shut down. And here's the other one too. Okay. Do you think Microsoft wants to keep all that money on the old Call of Duty servers going? We've seen so many servers getting shut down, live action game or live service games get shut down. What makes you think that the old Call of Duty servers are going to still be around? And if these, the old Call of Duty games get put on the Game Pass, it's still the same game. It's still the same server. So you're going to have all the hacks, all the hackers and everything that are on the old servers. You got to think about this stuff. That's all I'm going to say on that. So, yeah, this whole Xbox Activision deal. I've been playing Call of Duty for, I guess it's like 15 years or something like that by now. I don't want to see it go away. I think MW2 is probably one of my favorite Call of Duties that I've seen, and Modern Warfare 1 also. I love Infinity Ward, everything that they do. I've been saying that for years, but all just. When you look at the numbers and you look at the history and you look at like just cold hard facts of the way the industry works, this is just, it's going to come back to bite the consumers right in the ass. It is. It really is. And if you don't think so and you're just like, Xbox goods thing, yeah, my Game Pass, everything's going on Game Pass, just keep some of the stuff that I just read, in the back of your mind of like, yeah, but, if Activision Blizzard stays their own third party, then they can put games on every single platform. And if Xbox wants to in the future, if they want to bring it just to Game Pass and have, Call of Duty be exclusive, that's less funding that Call of Duty is going to have to innovate with, in the future. Also, if Call of Duty wants to do something a little bit different with itself in the future, or they want to enhance the technology that makes Call of Duty, like build a brand new engine or whatever the case may be, invest in rollback netcode like they have, make a brand new engine like they have, keep old servers online like they have, they're going to need to ask Microsoft for permission for this, because Microsoft then owns them. And that's a whole other situation. So, yeah. We'll see what ends up happening with this. I think it's about 30 minutes I've been talking about all this stuff. So we'll wrap it up here. There'll probably be more news in the future. I don't know if I'm going to cover it all, but if there's any diehards, thing of like it's official, they own them or whatever, then I'll make a video there. So be on the lookout for that. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, all the YouTubey stuff. And you can check me out. It's live on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Warwolf. You can find me over here on YouTube on this channel that you're watching right now. And yeah, I'll be back soon with more Let's Talk stuff because we have, oh man, we're gonna have like E3 and Summer Games Fest and all that stuff coming up in a few months. So it should be packed for gaming news. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by, and as always, I will see ya next time.